Back on CBS Sports HQ, delivered by Papa John's. Russ Thaler here. We're bringing Vegas to you there. We got Todd Perman and the Wizard of Odds, Kenny White. Gentlemen, there is just so much backstory for the early game. Bengals and Bills, a matchup that didn't get completed in Cincy because of what happened to DeMar Hamlin. We all know the story. The Bills favored by 5.5, which seems like a lot, but what do I know? The over-under's 49. Todd, what's your play on this one?
For me, Russ, I'm going to lay the points here with the Bills. I made the number a shade higher. I do think we see 6 and 6.5 prevailing throughout the market day of game. When I look at this Bills team, I think a lot of people are ready to throw the baby out with the bathwater, given how they let an inferior Miami team hang around for 4 quarters last week. But you dig into that box score and the play-by-play, and there were some ridiculous sequences of events, more self-inflicted from Buffalo than anything else. The defense did its part to hold a third-string quarterback largely under wraps, but they were plagued by turnovers deep into the first half and to kick things off in the second. But Buffalo dominated the stat sheet, and unlike the Bengals, who were outgained by the Baltimore Ravens by 130 yards, I think what Buffalo did is more repeatable than the Bengals, who've danced between the raindrops. I mean, you go back to the game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they struggled to move the football in that one. And I think this is where the Bengals, being banged up on the offensive line, not having a true cover corner and a number 1 role in Chidobe Awuzie, can rear its ugly head. Buffalo puts together its most complete effort of the season. They use that home crowd, and I think that sparks them to a win of a touchdown plus.
It's going to be a fun game to watch, as we saw that the previous game that DeMar was injured in, and that was a back-and-forth start to that football game, and it looked like it was going to be 10-7, 14-3 right away in this football game. The in-game total at that point was 55.5, and I think that we're going to see the same thing. Offense, the weather's good, no wind. That's what's going to be big here. Get 2 of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Burrow's going to be able to put his points up. He's got such a core of wide receivers to throw to. They're going to be exciting. And Buffalo's the same thing. So many weapons for Josh Allen. That this one goes back and forth. Well, we saw a lot of high-scoring games last week with 5 of 6 go over. I think this one continues that trend to get over the total.
All right, interesting. Both guys calling for points. All right, we've got game picks out of the way now. We'll get to the recap in a second. We'll tell you how that all went down. How about some player props? Kenny, start us off.
I zeroed in on Joe Mixon. I don't think Joe Mixon's 100%. Seeing by the amount of work he's gotten since he did come back from injury and sat out a couple games, just 11 carries last week, 39 yards, up against a Buffalo defense that's outstanding, stopping the run. And also the offensive line worries for Cincinnati, I think could cost them more in the run game than it will in the passing game. Because Joe Burrow's got such a quick release. I think he gets rid of the football with that pass rush coming at him. But it's the run game that I think will suffer here. So it's going to be Joe Mixon. But I'm not just going to go after the rushing yards. I'm going to go after rushing and passing because the number is a little bit higher. It's 77.5 yards. I like that much better. Season median is 74. So even a season median with everybody healthy is still under this number. So I think I really got a good play with Joe Mixon under here.
I'm going to go to the other side and look at this Buffalo Bills offense and focus in on their quarterback. And I know so much is made about Buffalo and their ability to run the football, whether they lean on James Cook or Devin Singletary. But what we've seen time and time again, the bigger the stakes, the more likely Josh Allen is to take off from the pocket if his protection breaks down or even in design runs. And over the last 3 weeks, we haven't seen a whole heck of a lot of that. Josh Allen, 4 carries last week against the Miami Dolphins, a pretty pedestrian-like output. But last year in the postseason, he had 2 games where they were out there, 17 carries combined in those contests and 60-plus rushing yards in each of those games. I think the Bills understand how it's difficult for defenses to scheme to take Allen out of the mix with his legs. If he happens to see a little bit of green in front of him, he's going to take off and run. I think Josh Allen could carry the ball 8 to 9 times at minimum in this spot tomorrow, and I really believe his rushing total is low based on current performance and the fact that Buffalo hasn't needed his legs to be a part of their offensive game plan. That all changes. I like him to go for north of 50.
All right, picks and props done for the early game. Let's turn our attention to the late game Sunday. Cowboys and Niners meeting for the 9th time in the playoffs. It feels like they're always sort of meeting up in the postseason. A rematch of last year's wild card game won by the Niners in Dallas. They're out west this time. The number 2 seed in the NFC, favored by 4. Total is 48.5. Kenny, what are you thinking here?
It's going to be another fun game to watch. Offense, and more offense out of these two football teams. Since week 10, The Dallas Cowboys were the highest scoring team in the NFL, averaging 37 points per game. But over the last 4 weeks of the regular season, San Francisco was the highest scoring team in the NFL. Frisco 6-1 to the over. Kyle Shanahan's really opened up the offense with Brock Purdy at quarterback. The last 4 weeks, they've scored 41, 38, 37, and 37. They have so many weapons on offense. The defense is great, but the Cowboys' offense is clicking on all cylinders right now as well. So this game goes back and forth. I made this total. Don't have a lot of big differences in these type of games, but I made this game 52 and feel comfortable it could go over my number as well.
Well, Kenny, if you have that large a difference, it makes me feel even better that we're in agreement on this particular total, because this is one of my favorite bets of the entire weekend, going over the number at 46.5 for a lot of the reasons that Kenny outlined. I think one of the storylines that we're obviously following is how good this 49ers defense is, but you dig into some of the numbers, and this team's been extremely vulnerable to vertical passing attacks. Here come the Cowboys, fresh off that pasting of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Monday, and they scored 31 in a game where they weren't pushed whatsoever. CeeDee Lamb should have opportunities to connect with Dak Prescott downfield for a variety of big plays. You look at the ongoing rapport that's starting to build between Dak Prescott and Michael Gallup. I think that'll pay dividends here. The one player who I think can struggle against the 49ers defense would be Dalton Schultz, but it just means more opportunities for the wide receivers. I love the fact that they gave Tony Pollard a lot more touches than we'd seen all season long when both him and Ezekiel Elliott were healthy. The Cowboys are smart. They don't bang their head into a brick wall and try and run into the teeth of this 49ers defense. It's throw early, it's throw often. And to Kenny's point, I think this 49ers offense gets undersold with all of the weapons, knowing that they have Brock Purdy under center rather than Jimmy Garoppolo.
And we're not doing it today, but if we were doing the all-on-the-line picks, it sounds like over out in Santa Clara would be that all-on-the-line pick. How about a player prop, Todd, for this game?
So I'm going to go to a high hold market, and this is one that's always a little bit dangerous because books don't oftentimes give you fair value on this. It's an anytime touchdown scorer prop. And while you're going to typically gravitate towards some of the marquee names, people want to bet Christian McCaffrey. They want to bet Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard. The list goes on. I'm going to go to Michael Gallup here, and I like the rapport that he established with Dak Prescott last week. It cost me my all-on-the-line pick when I went under his receiving yards on Monday night against Tampa. Wish I knew Jamel Dean wasn't going to play. But I think Gallup provides an element here that they can take advantage of against a 49ers secondary that really lacks a second true cover corner. Charvarius Ward is a tough matchup, and I have to believe he'll be matched up with CeeDee Lamb for extended stretches. But we've seen teams go after Diamonor Ledore, easy for me to say, quite often so far over the last handful of games. And I think Michael Gallup can be the beneficiary. So if Dallas gets a couple of drives in the red zone, look for Gallup to be that guy. I'll take his price at anytime touchdown right around 3-1.
Wow, nice price, Todd. Big play for that and for Michael Gallup. I'm going single individual player prop, and it's Ezekiel Elliott under his rushing yards here, under 34.5 rushing yards. Season median was 58 for Zeke, but I think they're starting to find out. He looks slow. Todd and I were talking about it last week. Looks more like a fullback now in that offense. 13 carries, 27 yards against the Tampa defense. Now he's up against the Frisco front four, which I think is much better run-stop unit. I also think Tony Pollard's the guy, and the Dallas Cowboys know it, and it is crunch time. It's playoff time. I think Tony Pollard's going to get 75% of the snaps on the field. If they are smart, that's what they will do, because Tony Pollard right now in this stage of each guy's career is the better running back. He's more explosive, better out of the backfield receiving the football as well. So I got to believe the Cowboys use Pollard a lot here. Zeke's going to be on the bench quite a bit of the time. So let's go under in his rushing yards.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is the Wizard of Odds, Kenny White. We also have Vegas insider Todd Perman. Gentlemen, thank you so much for the knowledge and the picks. Both Kenny and Todd think the Cowboys and Niners are going over that 48.5 total out west. Kenny also has the over in Buffalo. Todd likes the Bills to cover the 5.5 at home in Buffalo. And a reminder, you can see the Bengals and Bills 3 p.m. Eastern Sunday, live on CBS and streaming on Paramount+. You can also check out the pregame, halftime, and postgame coverage right here on CBS Sports HQ.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.